The girl on the other side of. One autumn day, during my first year in school, I didn't consider being late as a crime. I didn't think much of it as long as I had enough attendance to pass, but for a while, I was frequently tardy. The cause of this was my addiction to the internet, and at the time, I thought it made me look a bit cool. I would boast about how I hadn't slept at all, things like, I didn't get any sleep, and I thought it was kind of cool. In retrospect, I realize how foolish I was, but for about a month, I was consistently late for school. I usually skipped the first period and then arrived, either on foot or by bike. However, one day I suddenly noticed something. There was a girl who arrived at the same time as me. She would always walk, while I was on my bicycle, so I usually passed her by. She was pale, slender, and had this look as if she had been gazing out of a hospital window, watching leaves fall. She was a girl, but probably older than me. I never saw her among my classmates, so I assumed she was a senior. I remember it vividly, her frail figure that looked like it could topple over if you pushed it. Her black hair tied up in a ponytail, and the pale nape of her neck that I glimpsed as we passed by each other. I had never looked back after overtaking her, so I didn't know what her face looked like. However, I had a feeling that she had a beautiful face. One day, I was late again. As I pedaled my bicycle down the road, I saw her on the opposite sidewalk. It was unusual, she was never on that side. I felt a little disappointed. Today, I wouldn't get to see her from behind. I couldn't help but be curious, so I did something I had never done before. I passed by her as usual but immediately turned around. I wanted to see her face. I wanted to see if it matched the beautiful face I had imagined. However, when I looked back, she was nowhere to be seen. Do you ever see that person? She doesn't seem to be a first year. After school, I told my senior about her characteristics. I thought she might be a third-year student because of her appearance. Oh, I've seen her, my senior replied casually. I was somewhat surprised. Oh, really? What year is she? My senior looked astonished. What? You didn't notice? She's always there, isn't she? Around the next intersection at the pedestrian overpass. That was true. You know about her. Have you met her before? Now my senior seemed exasperated. Listen here. Don't you find it strange that you pass her in the same spot every day, around the same time, regardless of when you leave? Oh, I felt foolish. The place where I saw her was consistently the same, regardless of the time. So, in other words, is this related to the supernatural? My senior nodded in agreement. I hadn't even considered it. I couldn't believe that there was a ghost that I could see so clearly. I think it was a while ago, probably when I was a first year. It's been there ever since, always in that place. But, do they usually appear so clearly to me? I mean, you might see them better, but... My senior smirked. I had recently learned that when he made that expression, he was about to say something very unsettling that I couldn't have imagined. Do you know about amoebas? They have a process called phagocytosis, which is basically their way of eating. They use pseudopods or false feet to engulf their food. I wondered where this conversation was going. I wasn't particularly fond of biology. While I excelled in the sciences, I leaned more towards physics. They use these projections to engulf and consume things. It's a gradual process. That woman is like that. So, you mean to say she's like bait or a lure? Is that what you're getting at? Yeah, that's a good analogy. She's a pioneer. You might not see it, but there's something inexplicable lurking behind her. It's a dark, muddy mass, a conglomerate of those who've been absorbed. I wondered if she drew people in because of her curiosity. Perhaps she was made to be visible to those with sharper senses to attract as many people as possible. There were so many things I didn't understand. They're looking for more allies, as many as they can find. You know that intersection? It has quite a few accidents. In other words, that's what they're after. I felt uneasy. I didn't want to believe that she existed for such a purpose. But if that's the case, wouldn't it make more sense for her to stay on the side of the road closer to me? Today she was on the opposite side. My senior chuckled. We don't really understand what they're thinking. I don't know how you feel about them, but I just told you the facts. My advice is, don't get involved. On the way back, I passed by that intersection again. She wasn't there. I couldn't help but wonder if I had fallen in love with her, a girl whose face I didn't even know. I couldn't tell if it was her ability to draw people in that had affected me or if it was my own emotions. I gazed at the sidewalk she had walked on this morning, across the pedestrian crossing. I etched that scene into my memory and closed my eyes gently. Behind my eyelids, the lingering image was of her, looking back at me with a lonely smile. Goodbye. I waved my hand across the pedestrian crossing. The image of her face that remained on the back of my eyelids was, undeniably, very beautiful. How was it? Thinking about what lies beneath the surface, not just in this story but in life in general, is very important. Perhaps, behind the things we see on the surface every day, there may be something not so good hidden. On this channel, I narrate Japanese ghost stories. If you have any other stories you would like me to introduce or any questions about the stories, please leave a comment. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and stay tuned for the next episode.